Okay, so we have some people filtering in for our discussion with Christina Tang-Bernas about stamp technology, specifically about some articles that have appeared in our recent issue of StampEd and will appear in our upcoming issue of StampEd. So I'm going to take a few minutes and let people come in. As you all filter in, you can see we have enabled the chat. So if you have questions for Christina, you can put them into the chat, or comments about what we're talking about. We also have a Q&A that is open. So if you have a question that you want to send us directly to answer, you can put it into the Q&A. What else? We are going to run a poll partway through the session to kind of gauge your interest in NFTs, whether you have them, whether you're interested in collecting them. But you can also just toss that into the chat. Let us know how you feel about NFTs, if you have one in your collection, if you're interested in shopping for NFTs. It's all interesting to us. Okay. So, just to introduce myself quickly, my name is Susanna Mills. I'm the editor-in-chief of the American Philatelic Society. And I'm here today with you to do a StampEd takeover. So StampEd is our brand new magazine. It's digital only and it is free. And the way that StampEd differs from other magazines, especially the other things that we do here at the American Philatelic Society, is that it is focused towards a completely different audience. So what StampEd is all about is it's about art, it's about design, it's about these fascinating stories within the stamp collecting community, within stamp collecting history, within postal history. So it's about storytelling, and it's also about bringing together this community of collectors where anyone is welcome, whether you are a non-traditional collector, whether you are a stamp artist, whether you maybe you don't even collect that much and you're just interested in philately and postal history. Basically, anyone is welcome, no matter how you collect, into our community. So, for the StampEd takeover, we are welcoming Christina Tang-Bernas. Christina is actually one of the first people who reached out to us at the American Philatelic Society interested in writing an article for StampEd. And her first article was on thermochromic ink, and it's been a runaway favorite with our readers. Yeah, actually, I think among the first 15 letters and comments that we got, they're all like I learned so much with this new thermochromic ink article. So thank you, Christina. Christina's
Thank you for your kind words.
Christina's she's a writer. She writes fiction, creative nonfiction, poetry. She's also an editor who specializes in academic manuscripts within the engineering and tech industries. Her work has appeared in Coffee and Crumbs, in Native Skin, and Brevity magazine, and she's been nominated for Pushcart Prize. And I'll let Christina take it away and introduce herself a bit more.
No, you did a great job, and thank you for inviting me to be part of this webinar. I'm excited to talk about techie things and non-techie things as well. Generally my day job, as you said, is copy editing, but my passion is more creative writing, both fiction and nonfiction. And I would term the articles in StampEd as also creative nonfiction because it's telling, like you said, telling stories about really cool innovations and different things in the stamp community. So thank you.
Okay, so before I get started asking Christina some questions, I do want to show you a look at the first issue of StampEd and her article about thermochromic ink. So, all right, so here's our first issue of StampEd. When we go through, and as I said, this is digital only, so we have various different sections. One is about, it focuses on art and design. And here is Christina's article, Heat of the Moment. So this is what it looks like, and we encourage you to go read it. It's free to read at www.stamped.pub. So Christina, it seems like the idea of this article was based off of the fact that there is an eclipse coming soon, back when it was published. Did you actually get to see the eclipse?
I really wanted to, but the cost of travel was a bit out of our price range. So we watched it on the NASA live feed on YouTube. But my sister got to go. She went to Texas and she said it was amazing to see in person. But yeah, maybe was it 2045 the next
Yeah,
one?
I think it's 20 years from now. Um, yeah, we were not in the path of totality here in Belfont. So we it was supposed to be like 97%, but it was really cloudy. And so we all kind of filtered outside to see what we could see and just stood around for about 20 minutes until we realized like, no, nothing is happening here.
Did it get visibly darker or?
Nope, nope. Not at all. As it turns out, 95% totality means very little.
Hmm.
Um, but so can you tell us a little bit about um, like thermochromic ink and how it works?
Sure. So thermochromic ink, it's basically has three parts. It has the fat, the dye, and the developer. And so the dye, they have two states. It's either on or off, and it changes depending on the developer. So basically, the developer moves around a lot. So most of the time, it wants to hang out with the dye. And when it hanging out the dye, it's in the color state, the on state. So in the clip stamp, it's black. But then when you apply your heat, whether it's a finger or a lamp or any kind of heat, and it reaches the melting point of the fat, the developer suddenly wants to hang out with the fat instead. I guess it's like a subtracted to bacon or something. Melted fat is awesome. So it goes and hangs out with the fat, and that turns the dye off because the developer's not hanging out with it anymore, and it becomes clear. So it shows the image underneath. And then when the fat cools down enough, it solidifies again, the developer loses interest and goes and hangs out back with the dye, and it turns it black again. That's like the basic gist of it.
We did take a video. We took a video of basically the process happening. So our videographer essentially, uh, I think he put the total solar eclipse stamps from 2017, the USPS ones, which have this, which use thermochromic ink, excuse me, and we put them on a space heater and like filmed, like turned the heater on and filmed it, going back and forth, which I can show. I'll share my screen again.
Nice.
It's like, it's such a cool effect.
Yeah, it looks super cool.
Yeah. Some people who bought those particular stamps back in 2017 said that like the colors, like the color changing stopped working. Um, is that is that usual for the tech to fail?
I wouldn't be surprised. Because the ink does degrade over time when it's exposed to UV light. So it's like how the sun bleaches things over time.
Mhm.
And this ink is particularly sensitive to UV light. So if you store it in certain conditions, I'm sure it's going to last longer, the capabilities of the ink, but it's almost impossible to keep out all UV light.
Mhm.
And so I think over the long term, it's probably gonna, and like all the stamps are gonna degrade over time.
Yeah.
So it's not a matter of like if, but when.
Mhm.
And it's fun to display your stamp, so it's gonna get exposed to UV light and touch it and things.
Yeah.
It's interactive.
I think I mean, that's definitely a struggle, right? Because that everyone has with their stamp collections. Like one of the big problems with people doing like color identification on their stamps, like, is that just the natural passage of time and exposure to sunlight and like this factor and this factor and this factor and this factor can change the color composition significantly. So you may, especially for these older stamps, like what's the difference between a pink and a pink red? Like,
Yeah.
um, that's definitely something that people have difficulty with,
Yeah. I mean,
which is,
and with all new technologies, you just never know what the long-term
mhm,
consequences are. So
yeah. Yeah, I mean, I don't plan to take this conversation deep into preservation, but um, yeah, I mean, even the tools that we were using for preservation, 40 years ago are definitely not advisable anymore for when we're keeping our collections.
mhm.
Um, so let's move forward to issue 2. So in our second issue of Stamp Ed, we were talking back and forth about some different topics uh, that you might want to cover, and we landed on NFTs and crypto stamps. So can you tell me a little bit about your research process putting this article together? Like what kinds of things you were looking up? Yeah.
Basically, it starts off with just Googling a lot of things. So, like, I just put in crypto stamps, NFT stamps, and starting to read as many articles as I could about it, finding people I wanted to interview, um, writing down questions that came up while I was reading. And then I actually went to a conference for work and ended up having a great chat about blockchain with a professor, and that brought up some other questions I wanted to write. And then thank you to Susanna. She helped me distribute a short survey to all the supporters of StampEd and APS. And I got over 200 responses from every continent except Antarctica. So it was awesome. Thank you so much for all your responses. But after I get all the information, the article starts to shape itself in my mind. And then I'll go down random avenues, I'll get interview questions back. And it's just like a constant refining process until the article is written.
Did you didn't say, so Christina sent me a copy of her article a couple days ago. Um, and you didn't say that part of your process, whether part of your process involved buying an NFT or crypto stamp. I'm assuming it didn't.
Oh, well, I do have one crypto stamp, which is
Oh, do
the
you?
stamp the the stamps of maybe, because I'm just super interested in technology, and so I'm always interested in buying stamps with new technology, and the design is particularly really beautiful to me. But that didn't really inform my part of the process. I've had it for a long time because I have to confess, I still haven't activated the NFT for it. So, so yeah, I will have to figure that out myself sometime in the future, maybe follow up.
Um, okay, so I'll ask the difficult question, which is, can you explain NFT and crypto stamps as basically as possible?
Okay. So the really, really nitty-gritty version, and of course there's like plenty of better explainers out there. So we have the blockchain, and that's essentially like a database. And it keeps track of transactions. It's like your bank. It'll keep track of transactions, except this one is online and decentralized. That is the very, very basics of blockchain. And I explain a little bit more in the article. And of course, there's, like I said, plenty more better explainers out there. Um, so the NFT is on the blockchain, and it's a representation of an item, whether it's digital or physical. So it could be like digital art, or it could even be real estate. So they're just representations of it. And it's on the blockchain, and it keeps track of all the ownerships of people who own it over time. And that's essentially the basics. I don't know. Is there something specific you wanted me to clarify?
Um, okay, so I guess what happens when a postal service decides to release like an NFT stamp, like the stamps of maybe.
Okay, so there's different ways that postal services have integrated NFT and blockchain into it. And I see from the chat that someone wants me to explain fungibility. So NFT, it stands for non-fungible tokens. And so fungible means, can it be interchangeable? So I one of the examples I use is like a dollar bill is fungible. If I give you a dollar bill and you give me a different dollar bill back, it represents the same thing. So it's interchangeable. And non-fungible is something that's not interchangeable. So like a painting. You can make posters of it, you can put it on mugs, mouse pads, but that doesn't have the same value as the original art. You can't exchange a Mona Lisa for another Mona Lisa and have it mean the same thing. So that's essentially what an NFT is. It's unique versus like let's say a Bitcoin, which is fungible. Um, and so there's different ways that the stamps they utilize NFTs and are on the blockchain. And you can have NFT stamps, which are just images of stamps that are NFTs. But the one I focus on is like crypto stamps, which is, it has a physical and it has a digital NFT, and they're linked together. And so one of the big questions I had actually was, what happens if you sell one, or you use it as postage, and then, or you sell the NFT, but you keep the physical stamp in your collection? Like, does it have one owner? Is it two owners? Is it linked? And so I asked a lot of different sources, and the general consensus from what I can figure out is that they are linked, but there will be two owners. So how do we enforce ownership if someone says, if you sell the NFT, but you keep the stamp, and you're saying, oh, well, the NFT is still mine because it's like linked, but there's no real legal precedent over enforcing this ownership. As best as I can figure, it's kind of similar to contract law, or like when you have a car and a pink slip, they're two separate objects, but they're linked. But a car has more legal precedent than, let's say, a crypto stamp. So I guess we'll figure out in the future. I don't know if there's a lot of examples of people who have done that. It's so new. So basically, everything's kind of up in the air right now.
Mhm. Um, can you talk about like you in your article, you have a couple of examples of like people who have like released the first ones within the philatelic world, and then you talk about the stamps of maybe specifically. Um, can you, yeah, share a bit about like kind of who the big players in releasing philatelic like crypto stamps are?
The first country that issued crypto stamps is Austria. And as far as I can tell, Austria is still the biggest player. They have issued many crypto stamps, and with a lot of increasing technology with each issue.
Hmm.
And they're so big that a lot of countries have actually partnered with Austria to release joint crypto stamps. So generally, Austria keeps coming up, and there's been many countries around the world who have released crypto stamps and NFT stamps. The USPS released NFT stamps, which are, you know, they don't have a physical component; they're just images
Hmm.
of stamps. Um, but it doesn't seem like many countries have issued as many crypto stamps as Austria has. So I think they're the biggest player.
Yeah, I'm looking at um oh, it's actually Nordstrom has a bunch of Austria Austria crypto stamps for sale. And just looking through them, there's um a souvenir sheet with a pacifier,
Mhm.
um uh lion gold edition, bull gold edition, um a joint issue with the Netherlands. Yeah, so it seems like they're very active there.
They are. I think they have, if you go on their website, they have a whole pathway
Mhm.
of like all the stamps they're planning to issue that are crypto stamps. So it seems like they have a really long-term plan for releasing all these crypto stamps. Well, for many other countries, it seems like it's kind of a one-off to see if there's interest there.
Yeah. Um, I'm going to launch the poll just to see what the folks in the audience think about whether they collect NFT or crypto stamps themselves. Um, so you should see a poll pop up. Do you collect NFT/crypto stamps? And if you want to like vote and then also put into the chat, you can comment why or why not. Um, if you have like further thoughts that you want to share. Um, about why or why not you collect crypto stamps. That would be great. Um, got a couple more votes to come in. It'd be great if everyone participates since we don't have a ton of people in the chat at the moment. Um, in the meantime, so from what you from what you've heard from people, Christina, why why might someone decide to collect NFT or crypto stamps, and how do you think they would enhance a person's collection?
I think if someone is very interested in stamp technologies, um, it's just something to, like, if you're already buying things like thermochromic stamps or scratch and sniff stamps, this might be just something that's a cool thing to add. And then a lot of people who like NFTs, or like the feeling of having a rare item, that might be something that they're interested in, because NFTs are limited in number, and the NFTs themselves have different levels of rarity that it's kind of like a, like when you used to get like baseball cards in a pack. and then there might be like a really rare card in the middle, and you get really excited about it.
Yeah.
That's kind of the similar thing with NFTs. Like there might be a really rare drop, but you just don't know until you activate it.
Mhm.
So if people are interested in something like that, then that's something that they might want to buy for themselves. For me personally, I like the tech part of it, so that's why I bought my crypto stamps.
Yeah. I could see like it's just cool to be part of something. Um, and I imagine like, you know, 10 years down the line, you might be kicking yourself if you're the type of person to like to be interested in this kind of thing. You might be kicking yourself for not, just checking it out at least. Um, okay, so our poll, we had um, one of our viewers does collect NFT/crypto stamps. Two don't but are interested, and everyone else doesn't. Jeff in the comments says um, he collects UN, which has issued crypto stamps, but hasn't registered the NFTs, which is your story as well.
Exactly.
Um, from what you've seen or read, has the demand for stamp NFTs, has it grown? Has it plateaued? Um,
Honestly,
Declined?
I'm not 100% sure, I have to be honest. As far as I can tell, post offices, they are regularly selling out of them. So there's demand for sure. Um, and from the results of the survey, there do seem to be more people who don't currently own the stamps that are interested, like in the poll just now,
Yeah.
than people who currently own it and don't want to purchase more. So if we're basing it on the survey, then it does seem that there's a market for it and it may increase. Um, but I think it's still going to be a minority of collectors who are interested. I think the initial rush for just NFT in general has died down.
Yeah.
And definitely the media coverage has moved on to brighter things
Yeah.
like AI and other things. But
Yeah, I
but
agree. I was just thinking that
yeah.
I don't hear
The
about NFTs
technology,
anymore.
like I think with anything with technology, it eventually finds the niche or where people like it. And as far as I can tell, a lot of gamers are still on the blockchain and use NFTs. Some people in the art world. Um, and then I do know that the blockchain itself is being used for more practical purposes rather than just collectibles. So I think the technology has moved a little bit out of the collectible sphere. Um, and as you like what we've been seeing is like for NFT art, the value has gone down a lot for certain NFTs. So, but I think I think there will always be people who are interested. I just don't think it's going to be the majority. So it may be going up, but if it is, it's going to be slightly, and I don't think the majority of collectors will still want to buy it. If they haven't bought it already, they probably most of them won't. So I don't know if that
Uh,
answers your question. I honestly, I
oh,
don't know. And the survey is a specific like group of people. So maybe in a different demographic, we may have gotten different results. I maybe, we would have seen different trends.
yeah. I mean, the survey went out to our StampEd readers. It went out to APS members, and it went out to the APS social media. Um, and I think it's definitely possible that APS members writ large might not be as interested. Um, though, how do you define a group that is so large? Um, well, speaking of the survey, were there anything in like any interesting points that sprung out, like comments that you thought were really interesting?
Um, I did get a lot of comments and I really appreciated that. There's definitely strong opinions on either side about NFTs and blockchain in general.
Mhm.
Um, I think the biggest takeaway, at least for the people who responded to the survey, is that the way NFTs and crypto stamps are marketed, it doesn't quite fit with a lot of stamp collectors in the way they view their collection. So, a lot of stamp collectors, they like something tangible to enjoy. You want to touch it, well, pick it up with your tongs. You want to display it in your album. You want to feel a connection to the history of the stamp or the design of the stamp. So it's not so much like other collectible markets where you're hoping the value goes up or it's the rarity of it. I mean, there are some people, don't get me wrong, but a lot of stamp collectors, including myself, we're not really interested in the resale value so much as just, ooh, it's pretty. And I'm like a dragon myself. I just like to look at my stamps, my hoard every so often. So the way that crypto stamps and NFT stamps are marketed, it doesn't really appeal because you can't really touch NFTs. It's just some like a lot of people saying you just something you see on your computer. Ooh, I have it.
Mhm.
Um, or like the design is often blocked by the scan code,
Mm.
or it's like more minimal than usual stamp designs to accommodate the scan codes. Or if the scan code is not on the actual design, it's a scratch off, which people, it doesn't look as good. And for instance, the stamps of maybe when it comes, it's packaged in something that you have to tear to open the package to even get access to the stamp or the NFT. And it's part of me is like, "Oh, do you wanna tear it?" But I can't see the stamp otherwise.
Yeah.
So, even the packaging is making it not as, like, appealing to stamp collectors, and I feel like maybe if that changes in the future, if the technology changes, the marketing changes, that might be nicer. So, yeah,
Mhm.
I kept getting comments over and over again. It's like, "I wanna touch something. I wanna feel the stamp."
Mhm.
Like, that's why I think thermochromic stamp appeals to a lot of people because it's interactive. You can see the stamp, you can play with it, you can touch it.
Mhm. Um, I was also wondering, so one thing that you mentioned was ironic about the stamps of maybe in your article is um, that they're supposed to be about like environmental protection. Um, but a major concern that some people have with NFTs and crypto is that it has a huge environmental impact. Can you talk about that a bit?
Sure. So the biggest environmental concern with blockchain and NFTs, because they're on the blockchain, is that part of the blockchain, the way it works, is each transaction is verified by computers. And it uses a lot of computational power, hence energy. And that's that's a really major concern. And of course, it creates e-waste as well. Um, and that was actually why I personally hesitated over purchasing my own crypto stamps because the environment is a huge concern for me. And I don't really like have personally, I don't have NFTs. I don't have much to do with blockchains because of those environmental concerns. But the stamps are really pretty and I kind of like the
Yeah.
new technology. So I did eventually buy it, but I haven't purchased any more. Um, I do know that there are ways that people on the blockchain are trying to address that issue, such as using renewable energy. There's certain algorithms that people use to verify that have been developed that uses significantly less computational power. I mean, they're still using computational power, but it's less. So I know that it is a concern, but it's being addressed. Whether it's going to be addressed well enough in the future to alleviate some of those concerns, I don't know. Um, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, obviously that's a huge issue with AI as well, like the enormous water costs. Um, so,
Yeah, exactly. And with all of the concerns over
mhm.
climate change, um, it's definitely something that is a valid concern for people, and it does stop a lot of people from getting into NFT stamps for a good reason, you know.
Mhm.
So
I have your article open just so because we've been talking about the stamps of maybe, and I can share an image quickly. Okay. Yeah, there they are. Um, I mean, they really are gorgeous. Um, and I feel like the QR code isn't like terribly obtrusive.
mhm,
It could be so much worse.
it's true.
Um, but yeah, do you have a favorite from the four?
Hmm. I would think I think summer is kind of the coolest, the second from the left,
Hmm.
personally. I know the artist himself prefers the autumn one, the designer of the stamps. He said he prefers the autumn one.
The third
What about
one.
you? Which one do you like?
Um, well, I love sheep. So
So the
so
autumn as well.
spring and autumn probably. Um, uh, can you talk a bit about like what you learned about the design of these?
Sure. And you can see a little bit of the
Yeah, don't
my
read that.
article there.
Don't
But
read that. It's exclusive information.
it's actually inspired by the traditional national costume of the Faroe Islands. So that's why it's a black background with like the brightly colored flowers and animals. It's because the traditional outfit is brightly colored, embroidered natural elements on a black fabric or black background. So that's what the designer was inspired by, essentially, and he was working off the prompt, which is the Four Seasons. So
Yeah, gorgeous. Yeah, I would purchase these just for the design.
it was hard to resist I
Yeah.
resisted for a while. I was like, no, I got to do it. It's really pretty. So
Um, so what would you say? So this is one thing that people are, some people are very skeptical about uh NFT stamps and crypto stamps because it's just not proper collecting. Like, and you kind of brought this up, like you can't touch anything. Do you do you think that skepticism is valid, or like how do you feel about that?
for sure, I understand why people may hesitate to collect it because it isn't tangible. It feels like it's just a collection of pictures in your computer. But
Yeah.
I don't really like to define anything as proper collecting or improper collecting.
Yeah.
I think that so I personally collect a lot of different items, both, philately related items, but also other things like pressed pennies and playing cards and Edgar Allan Poe paraphernalia, you know? So I know people who collect bunny related items, or even someone collects plastic spoons from restaurants. So could I say that something is proper collecting or not? I can't. I think if you have an interest in something and you spend your time and money and effort curating it in a semi-cohesive way, and you're really interested in it, it makes you happy, it sparks joy in your life, I think it's collecting. So if NFT stamps is something that makes you happy and you like to look at it on your computer, then I think it's proper collecting for you. It may not be for other people, but
Here, here. Here, here. That was, yeah. Um, very well said. Um, okay, well, thank you, Christina. That's the gist of the article that will be appearing in our upcoming issue of StampEd. Our upcoming issue, it comes out later in May. We'll be looking at probably around the 20th for our launch date for that. So if you want to keep if you want to like be informed and make sure that you know when the next issue comes out as soon as it comes out, you can go to our website www.stamped.pub. We have a newsletter sign up there, so you'll receive like a newsletter that lets you know that the issue is going out. We also like send out regular newsletters with just some things that we find cool, some fun stamps that we've been finding, and as we build our community, we're going to have more things that are available for people like connected to StampEd, whether that's videos. In the future, it might be StampEd specific, classes or presentations. Um, we might get an author like Christina to come and join us and like talk about the article, kind of like what we're doing here. So I definitely recommend signing up for our newsletter. And I'll put the link in the Collectors Lounge chat as well, just so you can sign up there. Um, if anyone has any questions, just pop them into the chat. I don't think we have any that we haven't covered. Oh, here's a comment from RPSC, who says, the problem I have with NFTs is you don't actually get anything. You own a record of transaction. The image lives on the issuer's server. Your record on the blockchain is unique, but those records point to the same image on a server. I feel sellers and issuers are preying on people who don't know what they're not getting. That's a concern. We had Nora who says, crypto doesn't appeal to me due to the environmental concerns. Yeah.
Yeah, and those are valid. Those are both valid concerns, and one of the issues for current collectors, and like I said, with all technologies, we don't know the long-term consequences of it, especially for people who like to have stamp collections for years and years and years, and maybe
Yeah.
pass them down to, other people. Like I have a lot of friends who have inherited stamp collections, so we don't know what's going to happen in the future. And it's entirely possible and has already happened where people lose access to their NFTs. So what
Yeah.
happens then, is you paid for it. Um,
Tech
so yeah.
Technology degradation, like, you know, this is something that we're thinking about a lot in terms of, not in terms of NFTs and specifically, but in terms of like all the information that we have stored online, like what if PDF stops, like what if Adobe PDF isn't around anymore, or like what if Publisher, like Microsoft Publisher, goes out of existence, like all of these different technologies, they exist on the whim of the people who created them, as long as they continue to be profitable. Sorry to sound a bit snide, but it's definitely a concern about long-term preservation.
Yeah, I mean, just look at an easy thing to look at is like VHSs. Like how many people have a VHS player? I think my parents were the last ones and they got rid of their VHS player a few years ago. So, so what do we how do we keep these things? Or I mean, just look at photos too. Like,
Yeah.
how many people print out photos anymore? I have a 6-year-old daughter and I take pictures of her every day and they're all on my phone. What happens then, if we have a sudden, I don't know, electromagnetic spike and we lose everything, you know? So it's just how, I mean, that's the reason why for Voyager they had the golden record because they didn't know what technology was going to be like. And so they had to think about like, oh, hundreds of years down the line, if intelligent life finds this satellite, how are they going to understand what it what it is or what we're trying to convey? And so
Mhm.
with every new technology, it's kind of that feeling of like there will be things that are lost and things that won't be transferred. And it's just a kind of a fact of technology, I guess, these days. And I feel like it's getting faster and faster, these
Mhm.
developments of technology and things being lost.
Mhm.
So
Um, Lisa T just commented, this is chilling to read, Microsoft publishers being discontinued in 2026. Um, yeah, actually, that's going to be a huge issue for a lot of philatelists, because especially those who, um, a lot of people use Publisher for whether it's their stamp publications or um, their exhibits. Um, I mean, obviously, it's going to be a huge issue for everyone who uses Publisher, but yeah, chilling. Thanks for scaring me, Lisa. She says sorry. Um, any other comments from the crowd? If not, um, I will thank you very much, Christina. Thank you profusely for joining me and talking about Stamp Tech. Um, where can people find you?
I have a website of my writing, and it's just my name, Christina Tang-Bernas, all one word, no dash, .com. Um, and I am on Twitter and Blue Sky at CTB Ideas. So I post random things. Uh, and I don't publish I mean, I don't tweet or post
Yeah.
very often. So, but I'm there. And I also wanted to say thank you to Susanna for inviting me and for everyone joining us and for everyone who responded to all my questions and surveys and thing. I really appreciate it. It's awesome getting to write for such an awesome publication. And I hope that I'm looking forward to the next issue, not just for my own article, but like every article that I've read with StampEd has been super interesting. So yes, thank you to everyone.
Thank you. And you'll see in the background, we've got setting up our next activity, which is a live stream of stamp sorting. It is supposed to be relaxing, and I think it will be relaxing. So uh, if you go to the Collectors Lounge like seminar series, you can log in and watch us sort through a huge pile of stamps. Um, and you can also sort your own stamps along with us. And I'll call it a day. Thank you all so much.
Thank you.